The forest loomed large and ancient, a sprawling expanse of pines and shadows that whispered secrets older than the time. It was here, in the heart of winter, that Sam had chosen to hike, seeking solitude from the chaotic life he had left behind in the city. His friends had warned him against venturing into deep woods alone, especially at this time of the year. But he brushed off their concerns. He needed clarity, a moment to breathe away from the buzz of civilization. As he ventured through the snow, each step muffled and cold, Sam found himself enveloped by an eerie silence. The trees towered over him like a watchful sentinels, their branches heavy with frost. It was beautiful, yet there was an unsettling quality to the stillness, a feeling that something was watching him from the depth of the forest. He shook off the sensation and continued on, determined to reach the clearing he had heard so much about. Hours passed, the sun dipping lower in the sky, casting long shadows that danced eerily across the snow. Sam finally reached the clearing, a breathtaking sighting that momentarily stole his breath. The vast expanse of white was dotted with patches of frozen grass, and in the center stood a solitary oak tree, old and twisted, its branches reaching out like skeletal figures. He set up his camp near the tree, a fire crackling to life as he began to warm his hands. As the sun sank beneath the horizon, the forest transformed, the familiar sound of the day replaced by the haunting calls of the night. The wind howled through the trees, and the firelight flickered, casting grotesque shadows that seemed to move of their own. It wasn't long before he noticed that the first sign that he was not alone in the forest. A rustling came from the underbrush, low and persistent. At first, he attributed it to a deer or something, but as the noise continued, an unsettling feeling began to creep over him. He grabbed his flashlight from his bag and directed the beam toward the sound. But the beam fell upon nothing but the dense thicket of the trees. "Hello," he called out, his voice swallowed by the cold air, but there was no response. The rustling stopped eventually, but the silence that followed felt heavier than ever before, charged with something he couldn't quite identify. Dismissing it as paranoia, Sam turned back to his fire, stoking the flames in an attempt to reassure himself. The night deepened and the temperature plummeted. The fire crackled warmly, but Sam's thoughts drifted to his friends and the stories they shared about the forest. The whispers of a wendigo, an ancient spirit cursed to wander the woods in search of its next victim. They said it was once a man, a cannibal, doomed to roam eternally, always searching for more than just flesh. He shook his head, trying to push the thoughts aside, but a chill settled in his bones that even the fire couldn't dispel. As he settled into his sleeping bag, he forced himself to ignore the creeping fear. Sleep came fitfully, punctuated by the sound of the wind and the occasional snap of branches in the distance. Around midnight, he was jolted away by a noise, a soft, almost pleading sound, like someone calling for help. His heart raced as he sat up, scanning the darkness around him. "Hello," he called out again, more cautiously this time. The sound came again, a low moan that echoed through the trees. And he kept continuing. Compelled by a mix of curiosity and dread, he grabbed his flashlight and stepped cautiously out of his sleeping bag from the tent. The fire had died down, casting a faint glow, but the surrounding washed over by the darkness. He shined the light into the trees, through the darkness of the forest. "Is someone there?" he shouted, hoping against that it was just an animal in distress or something. And then the moan came again, more desperate this time, and he felt a curiosity to investigate what was making the sound. Against his better judgment, he ventured farther into the woods, the beam of his flashlight flickering as he moved deeper into the forest. The snow crunched behind his boots, and the air was heavy with the scent of pine and something else. As he moved forward, the calls transformed, now sounding like whispers. "Help me, please." The voice was hauntingly human, chilling in its despair. He felt a cold sweat trickling down his spine, yet he pressed on, driven by a need to understand what was going on. "Where are you?" he shouted into the void, the echo of his own voice mocking him. The whispers grew louder, swirling around, enveloping him in a cocoon of dread. "This way," it beckoned, a sighing song leading him deeper into the unknown darkness. Then he saw it, a figure just beyond reach of his flashlight beam. It stood between the trees, partially obscured by the shadows, its shape unnaturally elongated. Panic gripped him as he realized the figure was not human. Its skin was stretched over his charred bones, glistening in the dim light. Its eyes, like hollow pits, stared back at him, hungry and empty, and it had antlers on its head. It was tall. The whispers intensified, swirling in a chaotic symphony of voices that echoed his name, each calling out in desperation, "Sam, join us." The words sent a shock of terror through him. He stumbled backward, heart pounding, but the Wendigo took a step forward, its movements fluid and predatory. In that moment, he remembered the stories. The Wendigo was not just a creature, it was embodiment of the insatiable hunger, forever seeking to fulfill the void it could never satisfy. It fed not just on flesh, but on fear, despair, and the soul of those who wandered too close. He turned and ran, adrenaline surging through his veins. The branches whipped against him as he darted through the tree line, the echoes of laughter and crying pursuing him. The creature followed, its presence a dark shadow that loomed behind him, relentless and merciless. His mind raced as he stumbled through the underbrush. He needed to get back to his camp, back to the light, and back to the safety. The remaining fire would protect him. He had to believe that. Each step felt heavier, as if the very forest sought to hold him back, Finally, he burst into the clearing, gasping for breath. The fire was nothing but dying embers. But he fumbled for the matches in his pocket, desperate to reignite the flame. Behind him, the Wendigo's whispers grew louder, more menacing, a cacophony that sent chills down his spine. He struck a match, the tiny flame flickering to life as he held it to the fire pitch. With a whoosh, a fire sprang back to the life, crackling and hissing as the flames danced upwards. The heat washed over him, pushing back to the encroaching darkness. The whispers faded, replaced by the crackling of the fire, but he knew it wouldn't be long before the creature returned. As the fire blazed, he grabbed a heavy branch and positioned himself near the flame. Heart pounding, hours passed, each minute feeling like an eternity. The cold seeped into his bone, but he dared not let his gaze wander from the shadows, knowing that Wendigo was lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike. At the dawn, the forest took a new life, but the fear remained. The fire burned low, and the oppressive silence returned. Sam's mind raced as he thought of the trail back to his car, a grueling trek through the haunted woods. He had to leave before the night fell again. With a shaky breath, he extinguished the fire and gathered his things, determination coursing him through. The sun rose higher, illuminating the path ahead him. He retraced his steps, the whispers still echoing in his mind, a haunting reminder of the terror he had faced. But as he reached the edge of the clearing, a new sound caught in his attention, a soft eerie laughter that floating on the breeze. He turned, and there, standing just beyond the tree line, was the Wendigo. Its hollowed eyes glittered in the light, a grotesque smile stretching across his sculpted face. "Sam, you can't escape." He stumbled back, fear overwhelming him as he turned to run, his heart racing faster than ever. The laughter followed him, echoing through the trees, mingling with the wind. He sprinted, his lungs burning, snow flying beneath his feet. The trail seemed endless, the forest twisting and turning, branches clawing at him as if trying to pull him back to the darkness. He could feel its presence closing in, the whispers growing louder, a symphony of hunger and despair. Finally, he brushed through the trees and stumbled into the clearing. He fumbled for his key, hand shaking, and threw himself inside, slamming the door shut behind him. The engine roared to the light, and he peeled away, leaving the haunting forest behind him. As he drove, the laughter faded, but the memories of the Wendigo lingered, echoing in his mind. He knew he had escaped for now, but he could feel the hunger still, a whisper at back of his thoughts. The Wendigo was still waiting in the forest. Hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to this channel. Enable the bell icon so you don't miss new uploads. And also check out other videos in this channel too. Like them and share them. And if you have any suggestions or any improvements I need to make in this channel, please post them in the comment section. Till next time, this is Malayali Wendigo. Bye.